Hello, and thank you for joining us for this Genesis R&D Supplements application overview. This is going to go over our brand new Genesis Supplement software that's released this week. In this 30-minute webinar, 30 to 45-minute webinar, we're going to go over who ESHA is, what Genesis is, the differences between the Genesis R&D food application that ESHA has had for the last 25 years and this new Genesis R&D supplements application. Completely different application than what Genesis R&D has been in the past, so we'll still have both. And then we'll go into an introductory overview of supplements, adding and editing ingredients, creating formulas, populating labels. And then we'll do a little bit of question and answer at the end. A little bit about ESHA research. ESHA research was established in 1981 with the goal of providing a comprehensive nutrition database with few missing values. Our solutions include food formulation and labeling software, restaurant menu software, this brand new supplement formulation software, nutrition and diet analysis software, and then our consulting services. Taking a look at the Genesis R&D food application, the software that we've had for about 25 years. It was released in 1991. It currently has the 1990 and the 2016 labeling formats in it. It's built for product development, menu analysis, nutrient analysis, reporting, auditing, and then of course labeling, and then all of the statements that you need for your packaging, allergen statements, ingredient statements, nutrient content claims, barcodes. And then for this new software that we'll be looking at today, focused primarily on dry supplement formulation and labeling. So that was released this year. It's actually released this week, so it just came out. It's built for formulation of supplements, ingredient searching based on cost, shelf life, or nutrients. You can create formulas based on your desired label claims, not necessarily just how much of a specific ingredient was entered in, but you can base it on how much of a specific nutrient you would like claimed on the label itself. We have our overages, moisture loss. All moisture is taken out of formulas right now. We're looking to allow the ability to create formulas with moisture as well, but right now it's all dry mixes. We can distinguish between active and inactive ingredients, entering those on the ingredient statement or on the label, depending on if they're active or inactive. And then we've got a few reports that you can do for the supplements application. And you've got your labeling as well. Labeling right now inside of Genesis Supplements is the 2016 label format that was released in July. If you have any questions about all of that, we have a couple webinars that went over all of that. We have allergen statements built into it. We have all 400 plus allergens that you can do, all the different fish types, nut types, all that kind of stuff, and then creating your ingredient statements with your formulas as well. I'm going to go ahead and bring this over to my colleague Elizabeth. She's going to go ahead and show off the application now. Let me transfer control over to her. Give me just a moment.
Thank you, Ben. It's my pleasure to introduce our Genesis Supplements program. As Ben said, our Genesis Supplements program assists with product formulation and creating supplements facts labels for pill-type products, vitamin and mineral tablets, herbal capsules, and the like. And the program creates these tablets and the labels using 2016 labeling regulations. Today, I'd like to give a general overview of how the program works by looking at ingredients and creating a sample formula. So let's jump right in. Those of you that have the Genesis Food program will see right away the new user interface for this software. The program opens to the Open screen, where you can create a new formula or ingredient, open an existing one, look at the help through, and there's a manual in the help area. You can also see product account information and other various options. With selecting the all across the top, I can see all of the ingredients and recipes in my sample database here. There are a few ingredients that ship with the program, and then I've added a few others for the demonstration today. If I click on formulas across the top, I see just the formulas that I have in the software. And if I click on ingredients, I see just the ingredients. I can also, in this section here, type in a name where I can see my ingredients and formulas that I have in my software coming up by name. It shows ingredients, softwares, and ingredients and formulas, and also the components, which we'll be talking about in this demonstration. Over on the right-hand side, there's also some facets for a little bit more of the sorting. And then there's groups over on the right-hand side too. These are the groups that I've categorized the sample database in. I can, by clicking on, say, minerals, I can see then the formulas and ingredients that are in my mineral group. So let's start out by creating a couple of different kinds of ingredients. Creating ingredient, I would start off with new and then go over into the ingredients. It first prompts me for a name. So let's start out. I'm going to enter the ingredient ascorbic acid. So as I'm entering the ingredient, I would have in front of me my certificate of analysis. It's my documentation so that I know exactly what information that I want to enter in. From this documentation, I know that my ascorbic acid is 100% vitamin C. So I would enter that information by looking for vitamin C as a component. The program is pre-populated with components, including all of the mandatory and voluntary nutrients that are governed by supplement facts regulations, as well as other nutrients that are offered in our Genesis food program, so that this data is available upon import. You can also enter components of your own by just typing in the name of the component. So I would search for a component here. I'm going to select my component vitamin C, and from my documentation I'm going to put in that there is 100% vitamin C. The program then prompts me as to whether this component is going to be active or inactive. Active components are generally used on the formulation screen, and inactive components are not. Water is an inactive component by default, and that is used on the formula screen. This particular documentation doesn't give me a percentage for, there is no water, it's 100% vitamin C. So I'm just going to put my vitamin C here as my component for my active. The other information for the ingredient is entered into the ribbon section, and I have that already pre-filled out. So I'm going to cancel out this example and not save it, and then go over here to this vitamin C. This is the same ingredient, I just have other information filled out for us already. So from the slide out on the side, this just goes back and forth. You can see it or get it out of the way. Gives a summary of some of the information in for the ingredient already. So the notes section is a free-form field. I can enter information there that I think would be useful for the ingredient. And in the user-added fields, I've added the contaminants that I received from my documentation that I would like to know and keep track of. The information for the supplier, I can just type in the name of a new supplier, or I can select a supplier from the drop-down list. I can put in the cost that I need, and the shelf life. Both cost and shelf life are facets over in the when we were doing the search in the open screen. Then there's this section here for herbal properties. For ascorbic acid is not a botanical, so I don't need to enter herbal properties for this particular ingredient. And then over on the archive section, if I archive this ingredient, it's no longer available in the search. It's saved in the software, but not available in the search. So let's take a look at another ingredient. I also have up here echinacea. So echinacea being a botanical ingredient, I do have filled out here the herbal properties. So I have filled out here the scientific name, the source or the part of the plant, and the concentration. This is information that I received from the documentation that I have for the ingredient. I also, on this center section here, you'll notice that the active ingredient is polyphenols for the echinacea. That's information I also received from my documentation, 4% polyphenols. And I have the option of using that on the formula screen a little bit later. This also has information here for ash and water that I've also put in from my documentation. allergen information can be entered at the ingredient level. So for the echinacea, I just as examples so that we can see for the demonstration, I added almond as an allergen here. And then there's also a report section, which gives me just a good summary of everything that I have entered in for my ingredients. So that's an introduction to ingredients in general. Let's close both of these out and then use these ingredients in a new formula. So to create a new formula, I've got new, I click on Formula, and let's create a formula called Immune Plus. So like with the ingredients section, in the formulas section, I will also have documentation that's right at hand here while I'm filling in this particular formula. So for the formula, I'm going to enter in the approximate nutrient amounts that I would like to see on the label, and then the program will calculate the amounts of ingredients needed to make the formula. So I know from my documentation that I want in my formula the ascorbic acid ingredient, so I'll enter that in. And for the amount, I'm going to enter in 200 milligrams, and I'm going to make that active. So active ingredients at the formula level are used on the label, and inactive ingredients are included as part of the ingredient statement. So I've got ascorbic acid. The next ingredient in my formula is zinc. I'm going to choose this zinc ingredient. 30 milligrams active. I'd also like to put some copper in my ingredient, so I'm going to choose this copper ingredient. 2 milligrams active. And then I'm going to add in the echinacea that we were looking at earlier as well. 400 milligrams active. And to show an example of an inactive ingredient, just going to add some microcrystalline cellulose as an inactive ingredient that I'm going to put in the ingredient statement. So now I have my 4 active ingredients and my 1 inactive ingredient on my formula screen. So let's see what information that this can give us now. So this in the label claim column here, these are the values that are going to appear on the label by default. And this next column here is the percent overage. The percent overage column allows us to consider potency loss over time. So if my product shelf life is 3 years and I know my ingredient potency will decrease 10% during that time, then I would add a 10% overage in this column. So let's do that. Let's add 10% overage for vitamin C. You can see when I did that it changed this amount per serving column over here. The amount per serving column lists the amount of the particular ingredient that is going to go into the tablet. So this particular value takes into account the moisture loss and the percent overage and gives the dry weight of the ingredient that goes into the tablet. So let's add overages for our other ingredients here. So for zinc, and this is information that I would know ahead of time for the overage for this ingredient in this particular formula. So as you can see, when I added in the overage for zinc, and I know when I added in the ingredient zinc, it gave me information for moisture loss. So it's taken into account the percent overage and the moisture loss and given me the amount per serving that will go into the tablet of the zinc ingredient. So we can do the same for the copper. Add in a percent overage. And we can also do that for the echinacea. Okay, now I have my percent overages in. Now let's look at the nutrients. So as I expand each of the ingredients, we can see the components that have been entered for each ingredient. And for ascorbic acid, zinc, and copper, it's the components, the information that will actually be used on the label. So for the vitamin C, we know from having entered that ingredient that the ascorbic acid was 100% vitamin C. 200 milligrams is what I would like to report on the label, so there are no changes to make for this ingredient. So I go down to the next one, so I see the zinc ingredient, and then here's zinc that is going to appear on the label. This particular ingredient is only about 20% zinc, so that's why this value is so much lower than the 30. So I'm going to change this right here to 30. So notice when I did that, the label claim amount for the zinc ingredient changed, as did the amount per serving over here. So what this tells me is that in order to get 30 milligrams of zinc on my label, I'm going to need this amount of the zinc ingredient in my tablet. So I can do the same thing here. This copper ingredient, like the zinc, is not 100%, so going to change this here to the 2 milligrams of copper, and that's going to give me this information for the copper ingredient that needs to go in the tablet to give me this amount of copper on the label. Now for echinacea, the polyphenols that we saw as the component for that particular ingredient, I can also change the amount here if I'd like to see a particular amount of polyphenols on my label. I'm going to leave this as it is for now, but that is an option that can be done. So now I have my amounts and I have my serving amounts over here. So let's set to fill out the rest of the information for this particular screen. Let's go up here and set the serving size. Let's see, from this I'm going to make 2 tablets in 1 serving. And then my servings per container I'm going to set. There's going to be 50 servings in the individual bottle when it's sold. And the number of containers here in this particular batch is 20,000. So by entering in this information, it's given me the amount per serving here, which we had before, and then this is the formula amount in kilograms. This column is the percent formula for all of the ingredients that I have entered, and then the cost per serving. And then the user code is any combination of numbers and letters that need to be entered there. So from this information, then the summary information at the bottom gives us the information about our tablet. The serving weight for the 2 tablets and the number of milligrams, the unit weight, the weight per tablet, the cost per serving, and then the batch weight and the batch cost. So this is a pretty powerful screen where you can do quite a bit of experimentation and just sort of, figuring out, the different combinations that you would get so that you could hit your targets for, unit weight and serving cost. So let's take a look at other options available here for the formula. If I go up into the statements section, this is where I would enter information for my allergen statement and my ingredient statement. Now we know from earlier on that almond was an allergen that we had put in for echinacea. So if I sort of hover over this, this lets me know this. This allergen is from the echinacea, so I know that. This is red by default, which means no, but if I would like to include this in the allergen statement, I would just click over here. It turns this blue and then puts these words here down in the default allergen statement. I can also add allergens from here. And then, so I have 1 allergen from my ingredient and 1 allergen I have added at the formula level. And this shows me my allergens down here. It contains almonds and soy. Now for the ingredient statement, the program assumes that the red are ingredients that you don't want to list in the ingredient statement, and the blue are items that you do want to list. So by default, the active ingredients are red and the inactive ingredients are blue. So right now, microcrystalline cellulose is the only ingredient in the ingredient statement. And that's assuming that I'm going to put the rest of this information on my label itself. If I decided I didn't want to do that, I could just switch these here, turning those blue, then they appear in the default ingredient statement at the bottom. But I am going to enter the source information on the label, so I'm just going to leave this ingredient statement as it is for now. So let's jump over to the label. The label is a very interactive area. The program comes with two labels to start with. There's a tabular label and a linear label. And the default label that comes up is the tabular label, and also the default %DV standard that comes up is for the adult. We also have %DV standards for children and pregnant and lactating women as well. So when the label comes up, if there's a part that's red, it just means that there's not quite enough space there to fit in the information that needs to be there. So you can move that over just by moving over the bar at the top. So when I click on this vitamin C, there's a box that comes over on the left-hand side that gives me the options I have for this particular vitamin. So the vitamin C on the label is coming from ascorbic acid, our ingredient. And so I can show this by clicking S and show in line. And now I have ascorbic acid listed as my source after the vitamin C. If I click on zinc, I have the same. Zinc is what I'm reporting on the label. This is my ingredient. I can show it on the label right next to the vitamin C, the zinc. And the same is true for copper. Show my ingredient on the label and like that. So if I'm going to show the sources for these vitamins and minerals right next to them, I definitely don't need them at the bottom of the label here. So I can remove them. So if I click on ascorbic acid at the bottom, I can just remove it from the label there. Clicking on the zinc ingredient, clicking on the copper. So now I've removed those from the label. The program automatically knows that on top of this black line here is where the vitamins and minerals and nutrients go that are heavily governed by the supplement facts labeling regulations. And then below the line here are other compounds. So for the echinacea, box on the left shows me the options that I have for that. I can choose to show the scientific name, which I will, and choose to show the part of the plant, which I will. And then I'd also like to show that this product has polyphenols, and I'd like to highlight on my label the percentage of that, because I think that is something that my customers would want to know. So I can show that in line, and then just spread out the label a little bit to get everything listed. And so that's kind of the basic label. There are definitely some other things that I could do to work with the formatting and so forth of this, but that's kind of my basic label for now. So I'm going to save this and then go back over and see if I want to do any particular edits. So after it's saved and I have my, my label on there, I can go back over to the format area, and then I can do this slide out on the right-hand side, and this shows me the label that I have so far. So if I want to do some edits then here, I can see immediately, this is interactive over here, how it's going to show on the label. So let's say I want to change my vitamin C here to 400 milligrams. I want to see what that does on my formula. I can see how that changes my unit weight and my cost. And then I can see over here how it changes my percent DV and so forth right on the label. So these two screens are really handy just for interacting between the two and working on them together. Over in the reports area here, there's two different reports. There's a report that gives the basic general information for the formula, and then there's also reports that show the labels as well. So, so that actually completes our basic overview. I think we might have time for just a couple of questions, so I'm going to switch back over to Ben.
Great, thank you very much. So if you do have any questions that we don't get to, we will follow up with you afterwards. If you'd like to contact us, you can contact us by phone. Our phone number is there, or you can email our sales department or go to our website to see more information. We have a few specific kind of questions, but please also let me know if you have any sort of feedback whatsoever on the application. You can leave it inside of the question and answer field inside of this webinar, or you can contact our email or phone. The first couple of questions are just kind of about the supplements application overall. The first one is, when will it be available? And I mentioned a little bit earlier towards the beginning, but it is available now. So you can contact our sales department for more information or to purchase the Genesis Supplements application. The second question is, what is the difference between the Genesis Supplements program and Genesis R&D Food? Are they separate applications? Is supplements a module of food? And it's not a module. They are completely separate applications. Supplements was built really from the ground up specifically for supplement formulation, whereas the current Genesis R&D food program will still exist in its glory, and they will continue to function separately. You can own both as well, though. We'll go ahead and take a look at a few kind of formulation and feature questions. The first one, does the program offer other formats besides the tabular label? Elizabeth?
Yes, thank you, Ben. Actually, I have a couple of other examples in the software, and I can show that. So if I go back to in my formulas, I have a formula called Herbal Blend. And so this one does show the linear label, an example of a linear label for this particular formula. So both of those kinds, both the linear label and the tabular label, give a lot of flexibility for different kinds of labels for the program.
Another question, does the program allow combining ingredients from different sources, which we've had that one a couple of times?
Yes, actually, we can combine ingredients from different sources. There's a formula sample in here I have called Calcium Plus, where I've entered in two calcium ingredients, calcium citrate and calcium malate, and then two different magnesium ingredients, magnesium citrate and magnesium oxide. And as you can see, there are two calcium components for each of the calciums and magnesium components for each of the magnesiums. So then when I go over to the label section here, the program has combined the calcium amounts into one and the magnesium amounts, and has allowed me to list the two calcium sources and the two magnesium sources next to each ingredient.
Fantastic, thank you. I think we're going to go ahead and stop here with the questions. We'll follow up with everyone individually if they had any questions that we did not get to. If you would like a one-on-one demonstration of the software, our sales staff can certainly do that for you. Just go ahead and contact us either by phone or by email that are on this page now. Thank you for attending this, and everyone have a fantastic day.